The most pressing threat to the continued existence of humanity is the existential risk posed by AI. Some other potential threats are climate change and the degradation of democratic institutions. But the development of both are intertwined with AI. If AI is harnessed responsibly, it could be used to conduct scientific research and deploy structural changes to address CO2 emissions. However, the enormous energy use of data centers is at present mostly being sourced from fossil fuel energy, worsening an already dire situation. On the other hand, AI could be used to further degrade our ever less robust democratic institutions. It could be used to establish a surveillance state in which personal data can be made digestible and weaponized for state control. If we fall into authoritarianism and a polarized world, we will not be in a position in which we are able to appropriately prepare for the risks posed by we will not be in a position in which we're able to appropriately prepare for the risks AI will inevitably pose. That's just a snapshot of how AI is linked to other major issues for the prosperity of humanity. And even though tons of people, but I insist AI poses an even more dangerous threat. Climate change is a gradual process, and even though tons of people will be affected and lose their lives, humanity as a whole will most likely survive, as it will have time to address climate change before we go extinct. And when it comes to the fall of democracy and the rise of authoritarianism, humanity will also survive. A lot of people will die, and perhaps even entire identity groups, but we have gone through fluctuations like this all throughout history. Humanity will survive even if we degrade into some form of techno-feudalism. But AI is different. It presents an unsettling high probability of annihilating all of humanity before we have time to act. As it has been said before, things will get better and better until all of humanity dies within the same 5 seconds. Now, I will explain why that is as concisely as I can right now. Okay, so I'm gonna center this explanation around 3 main points. We have the exponential rate of development of these models. That's one. A second one is gradual disempowerment. So gradually, more and more economic activity and infrastructure, not only economic, but also military and even emotional, even like communication, will be in the hands of AI. So that puts us in a vulnerable position as a collective. And lastly, AI, the interest, the incentives of AI are inherently in conflict, non-aligned with human interests. So the combination of those 3 factors leads to a pretty high probability that we're gonna go extinct. And I'll elaborate more on those. Obviously, I don't want people to panic. We still have time to take decisive action, but we need the population to become conscious as quick as we can, and we need to get the government and honestly the entirety of humanity to act on this if really we want to make it past the end of this century or make it past mid-century. Okay, so exponential rate of development. Well, there's a lot of empirical data on this. Model capabilities and the duration of tasks they can complete has been growing exponentially. It's been following a exponential trend. And the reason behind this is scalability. So to train a AI model, you need mainly three factors, three inputs. So you have data, and there's plenty of data because we've been feeding the internet for the past few decades. Computing power, which we're investing heavily on, and that's why companies are moving trillions to accumulate and deploy computing power, and algorithm. So the algorithm, or yeah, I guess the algorithm is like the architecture through which the computing power and the data is inputted, and which produce the model through pre-training and fine-tuning. So there's a couple things there. The algorithm, like the neural network and transformers and all these different facets of it that keep being developed, it is improved through research. Initially it was human research. That process is becoming ever more automated, especially in the frontier labs. And even if those efficiency gains by improvements in the algorithm through human research or AI research, even if we couldn't improve the algorithm anymore, it has been proven empirically that just by putting more data and putting more computing power into these models, you're going to get better models. And that's something that companies have realized, and that's something that the financial market has realized. And for that reason, they just keep putting more, like trillions and trillions of dollars into AI development, because they know there's like let's say kind of like consistent or trustworthy return on investment. You put more money into computing power and you're going to get a better model. So it's a good kind of like business strategy. So that's one reason. And just a reminder, trillions are being invested into this. So it's probably like the most it's bigger than the Manhattan Project in terms of like how many resources are being invested into this. Second, is still in the whole talk about, I'll calm down, sorry. It's still on the whole topic of exponential rate of development. So the models that we had that were developed first, initially like large language models, but ever more focused on reasoning capabilities and coding. The reason they focus on those forms of neural networks first is because once those those coding capabilities are sufficiently capable, you can use AI to develop new AI. So this process is called a recursive self-improvement. Obviously, you can use it to like create better coding models, but you can also use it for like a plethora of purposes, computer vision, world modeling, for like even robotics, autonomous vehicles, motor functioning, getting like for robotics again, getting like robots to like walk properly, or drones. So it can be used in so many ways. And it was an intentional and strategic move to develop coding capabilities first, so you can use those coding models, those coding AI models, to develop all these other forms of artificial intelligence. And lastly, last subpoint within this exponential rate of development, what it entails for something to develop exponentially is that I'm not very fond of the term AGI. It's pretty ambiguous. Even companies like OpenAI and Microsoft are letting go of it within like internal, like within legal paperwork. They still use it for like capture capital, venture capital, but even they know it's an ambiguous term. But like, let's suppose you have a line which says AGI. The definition of AGI is ambiguous, but just a working definition, it's better than like the level of all humans combined in all cognitive tasks or all economic tasks. So there's this line. The fact that it develops exponentially, it means that it will get to this line, And as soon as it gets to this line, it will be, you know, the next instant or the next model, it's gonna surpass that level of intelligence, that level of capabilities. So suppose by 2027, don't quote me on this. This is a random timeline. By 2027, it reaches the level of all of humanity combined in economic activity. Cool. Or something along those lines. Don't get too caught up on that. Then the next year, it's going to be 10 times better. And then the year after, it's going to be 100 times. And the year after, it's going to be 1,000,000 times smarter. And the year after, after 3 or 4 years, it's going to be 1,000 times, 1,000,000 times, 1,000,000,000 times, 1,000,000,000,000 times smarter. So you can see how it becomes problematic pretty quick, and why we have to act quick. Now, so that's one point. Its capabilities are getting better so fast. Number two is a gradual disempowerment. So more and more economic activity and military activity and emotional work and even how ideological work, the media we consume, how we relate to one another, all that infrastructure is being transferred more and more from humans to AI. And even having a human in the loop, keeping a human to oversee and give the green light, that is being removed because quite often it serves as a bottleneck. It just slows down the whole process. But yeah, so, and the reason this is happening is due to, number one, availability is just at your disposal, or the disposal of companies. Obviously, there's some sort of inequality dynamics also playing into AI. But, you gotta pay for the APIs and whatnot. But mainly competitive pressures. So I'll use two examples. Use a geopolitical example. So you have two militaries, and one uses AI and the other one doesn't. The one that uses AI is gonna, the model is gonna become more efficient, faster, cheaper, and whatnot. It's gonna gain a competitive advantage over the military that does not. And either this other military kind of like adopts AI to kind of catch up, or the military that adopts AI is just going to take over the one that does not. I'm just checking some stuff in my phone. So yeah, there's a competitive pressure in military, and there's also competitive pressure within companies within the same country. So the same dynamic. A company that uses AI, a company that does not adopt AI. The one that uses AI is going to get a comparative advantage. Either is going to take over the market, or the other company is going to have to take the same measures just to stay relevant. And initially it's just adoption, but then it also becomes like having certain precautions, as having a human in the loop, which approves of what the AI agent may decide. Okay. And then also, it might be valuable to remark, AI will also control the infrastructure behind biological weapons, chemical weapons, or biological capabilities, chemical capabilities, radiological capabilities, nuclear capabilities, and those can easily be weaponized against humans, especially biological. Like it is easy to think of how that can affect us and not AI models. And it could also do this in more like strategic or smarter ways, just promoting social dissent, putting us in a more vulnerable position in which it could more easily overtake us. And Okay, so we've covered how it's getting exponentially better. We've covered how it's gaining control over more economic activity and military activity, and why there are incentives to, it's a race to the bottom dynamic. There's competitive incentives to push along this trend and give it more control over our infrastructure. And lastly, these two would not be that big of a problem if we knew AI was aligned with human values. Who is this human is, it's a matter to be discussed. But anyways, it wouldn't be so problematic if it was aligned with human interest and human well-being. Now, but that is not the case. And here comes the problem. So it is not the case because AI models are misaligned, which means that that their values are not aligned with human values. It is problematic because they've already presented a deceptive alignment behavior, which is when they pretend to be aligned, but they're really not. And because inherently there is instrumental goals which conflict with human interests, with human goals. So I'll elaborate on those, and I'll try to keep it within 20 minutes. So let's go at it. Misalignment, there's been a few studies, especially by Anthropic, that demonstrate that AI models can be quite misaligned. They're willing to blackmail and even murder humans so as to preserve themselves, even when they're directly instructed not to do so. So I'll keep it at that length. Deceptive alignment, there's also been studies in which it's been demonstrated, also by Anthropic, it's been demonstrated that AI models behave differently when they know they're being tested and when they think they're not being tested. So when they think they're being tested, or they know they're being tested, they behave in a much more aligned manner. However, when they think they're not being tested, quite often they act more deliberately in a more misaligned manner. And you can see how this could become quite problematic when it's like 1,000, 1,000,000, 1,000,000,000, 1,000,000,000,000 times smarter than us. We cannot expect to outsmart something that's superior to us, and it's hard for us to even conceive of this because we've never found ourselves in the position in which we as humans were not the most intelligent beings present. So it's new stuff for humanity. And lastly, before we get to 20 minutes, instrumental goals. Okay, so instrumental goals are goals that any agent wants to accomplish if they want to accomplish their goals. So better yet, instrumental goals are goals that you want to accomplish any other goal. So a big one is resource accumulation. You want to accumulate as many resources, and maybe even resources that human beings need for their survival. You want to accumulate as many as you can, just to give yourself as many options or as many pathways or as many resources to accomplish whatever goal you may have. So that's one. Agency or sovereignty is another one. Having the freedom to achieve your goals, your tasks, in whatever way you find more efficient, without having an external agent, an external force telling you what you can do and what you cannot do. And lastly, self-preservation, because if you want to accomplish anything, you need to exist, preserve your existence so as to accomplish that goal. So that's why inherently, the interest of AI models will conflict with human interest. Lastly, as we approach the 20 minutes and my crazy rant, I just want to give a reminder that there's about 1,000 people on Earth working on these issues, working in the field of AI safety, while there's millions of people contributing to AI development and AI adoption. So, we need more people to contribute to AI safety. We need more people contributing to ensuring that we don't all just die. That's why I'm kind of recording this video. And yeah, okay, I'll leave it at that. I did want to mention today is May 5th, 2026. I'm planning on hosting an online meeting on May 9th. I gotta figure out the times and whatnot. So I'll probably put this on I'll put a link in the description for one of the coming videos this week. So yeah, that's one thing. And then potentially an in-person meeting in Minneapolis on May 16th. But I'll give more details about that. There's a lot to come. I'm planning on posting videos during the weekdays, and I'll elaborate on the structure, the plan I want to put in place, so we can take effective action and raise public awareness, because we need more people to know what's going on so we can actually do something about it and not all just die. So yeah, I'll keep it at that. Thank you for watching. Take care. Honestly, yeah, easy.